After a longer than anticipated work trip, I came home early intending to surprise my husband with a lovely meal. I hid in the closet in the living room, trying not to laugh aloud, waiting for his happy, surprised reaction when he saw me. I heard his voice when the front door eventually opened, but it was followed by the voice of an unknown woman. I watched them walk arm in arm into the living room a few moments later. My husband was with a different woman, whom I didn't know. That's when I understood it was all a lie, that what should have been a delightful surprise had instead become a thirst for vengeance. He would pay a heavy price because I would never forgive him. How could he turn on his own wife like this? Get ready, my love, for what could be the final few priceless minutes of your life. I'm an office worker named Lisa, and I'm 32 years old. After receiving my college degree, I managed gardening equipment for a large corporation. Since then, I've put much effort into my work, developing a bright career. About a year ago, I only gave my career and personal success my whole attention. But then I met my future husband, Brian. It was during a small drinking party at a fine bar downtown that we were introduced by mutual friends. Brian and I clicked right away. He worked for a smaller corporation. We married after dating for 17 months and have been a happy working couple ever since. My husband is employed by a small company that sells farm equipment. Neither he nor I ever put in extra hours at the office. I frequently wait for him after making dinner because I get home earlier than he does. After a long day at the workplace, cleaning the house can be difficult. But my husband works in a physically demanding position. I didn't mind doing the housekeeping because I wasn't that outstanding in cheering him up with a meal. I was pleased as long as Brian could return home and sleep well when he was exhausted. I tried my hardest at home because I wanted him to think well of me as a good wife. Eventually, a decision was made one day for me to leave on an extended work trip. I was thrilled about the trip because it was associated with a possible promotion. I even believed that this trip would decide my career, if not my life. Brian would be home alone with me while I was gone. Since he's an adult and capable of taking care of himself, I wasn't too concerned. But you should be aware of one thing about the man I married, though. He has never cleaned a single day in his life and is a terrible cook. He lived with his parents before to our marriage, and my mother-in-law, Mrs. Smith, handled everything. Not even laundry can be done by Brian. But in our modern, advanced society, we can order meals delivered to us, and there's a laundry just a short stroll from our house. I knew he could do it. My husband was going to celebrate his 34th birthday while I was away at work. His birthday is normally celebrated with us, but this year, we were unable to do so due to a work-related trip. We won't be able to spend your birthday together this year, Brian, my sweetheart. I truly apologize. Oh, Lisa, sweetheart, it's all right. Considering that you have a job to do, it is unavoidable. I hope you have success at work, my love. You've always tried your hardest, which is why I've always loved you. When you get back, we'll celebrate with something. How does that sound? My husband's encouraging words gave me even more motivation to succeed, so I left on my work trip. I had a lot on my plate at work throughout my vacation, frequently working past my regular hours, so it was difficult to find time to text or call my husband. I was able to give him a call every few days or so, but he never picked up, perhaps because he was busy. Not quite the same, since communication was restricted to messages. Even though I missed him, Brian's supportive remarks motivated me to put in extra effort to get that major promotion. I finally saw the outcome of my efforts when I completed ahead of schedule, which allowed me to go home a few days earlier than anticipated. I was delighted. Even though I had first told my husband I wouldn't be able to make it because of the work travel, I was able to return home on his birthday. Naturally, I had intended to surprise him on his birthday with a beautiful dinner and my return. It was going to be an early finish to work, followed by Chinese takeout, a birthday cake, and the wallet he had been dying for. Everything was prepared. I hurried to get back home, thinking how thrilled he would be to see me on his birthday. I got home much earlier than he usually did. It felt like any other evening, He usually got home by 6 o'clock. I hid in the closet in the living room to surprise him. Brian still wasn't home at 6 o'clock. I began to wonder if he was having a birthday celebration with some co-workers. I was thankful for his friends as I gradually came to believe this to be true, but I missed seeing Brian's expression of shock and delight. Thus, even though it was getting close to 6:30 p.m., I persisted and didn't go to bed. I stayed in the closet, waiting for his car's recognizable hum. I was so tired from my lengthy and demanding work trip that I dozed off in front of documents and computer screens. It was only some hours later, upon awakening to the sound of a rumbling car engine, that I realized I had fallen asleep. Finally, I spotted Brian's car's signal lights when I peered through a crack in the closet door. I shut the closet door silently and bided my time for several more minutes. I heard Brian's business shoes echoing around the home as the front door opened. Today was a lot of fun. I'm grateful for the delicious dinner. Did you think it was delicious? Sweetie, it was a pleasure to celebrate your birthday together. However, I didn't recognize the woman's voice, and she seemed suspiciously young. So why, for heaven's sake? Though I was unhappy, I made an effort to remain silent in the closet. It's amazing how much happiness a straightforward business trip can bring. Being with you every day, Daisy makes me the happiest guy alive. The way I feel right now is amazing. I'm grateful, my love. I also enjoy being with you. I tell myself it's unavoidable, but I can't help but feel bad for your wife. It's all right, sweetie. She is my wife only because of her wealth. I've only ever loved you as a woman. Really? Is the only reason you're with her really because she has money hidden away? If I found out that my devoted husband had made comments like that about me, it would break my heart. There's nothing good about her except for her money. It's literally the only thing she has going for her. They began to pile on the criticisms of me with an absurd amount of excitement. They laughed as they spoke, unaware of my presence, which left me feeling stunned. Daisy, we always have the best time together. However, I can only picture what it would be like to be trapped in a relationship with that woman, suffocating like in a nightmare. I'm glad I could make it here. Again, I say it. I was never in love with Lisa. I promise to do whatever it takes to be with you because I adore you so much. They next proceeded to have a bath. I used that as an excuse to sneak out of the house. Perhaps it would have been preferable to address those two traitors then and there. However, the shock of what I had seen was too much to bear. It was so difficult to contain my tears and stop myself from screaming in agony. I needed time to collect my thoughts before I could confront the truth. That evening, I checked into a motel nearby. I started crying as soon as my feelings got the better of me on the way there. I sat down on a park seat and ripped open the box that held Brian's birthday cake. Grasping a fistful of dessert, I awkwardly forced it into my mouth. Every bite had a hint of bittersweetness from the combination of the sweet cream and the tears flowing down my face. I must have seemed to bystanders like a lady dressed for work, shoving too much birthday cake into my mouth and crying, my face covered in cream. I knew I looked strange, but I didn't really care what other people thought of me when I was going through a personal crisis. My sadness at the incident turned into hatred against my husband after I had shed many tears. It's true that I've done a lot for him. I don't mean to imply that he owes me anything. I made meals for him, took care of all the housework he was too weak to do, and tried to grant his wishes whenever he asked for them. Even though I spent thousands of dollars buying him a birthday present, he continued to treat me like an ATM and never showed any genuine appreciation for the person he decided to spend the rest of his life with. It doesn't come for free, my love, if he wants to call me a money grubber. I hurled the wallet I'd gotten him for his birthday into a nearby garbage can with all of my fury. I murmured to myself as I left the park, "You've got some nerve to cheat on your wife while she's away on a business trip, my dearest." I decided to file for divorce while driving to the motel. But I knew he would only be happy if I got a divorce, so I chose to punish him for what he did before calling it quits on our union. I remained at the motel for the next few days. I couldn't bear to go back until the next week, when I was meant to travel home. On the way, I did, however, make a quick stop by our house, and it was odd to discover Brian's car there, especially at this hour, when he ought to still be at work. I called his business and asked the receptionist if Mr. Brian Smith was there, posing as a client. "Excuse me, is Mr. Brian Smith present at this hour?" "I'm sorry, ma'am, but it seems Mr. Smith has taken a vacation for about a week." "Oh, is that right? I appreciate you informing me of this." Thus, my husband spent a week away from home. This got me wondering if the woman he was seeing was employed by the same business as him. I looked it over. "Is there someone by the name of Daisy?" I questioned. "I apologize, ma'am, but it appears Miss Daisy will be spending a week or two on vacation as well. Do you require assistance with anything else at this time?" "I can put you in touch with someone else if it's urgent," the receptionist answered. "It's not urgent, sorry. I really appreciate it." I ended the call by saying, "Have a nice day." I was sick to my stomach when I found out that my husband was having an affair with one of his co-workers. It was unbelievable to me that I had ever loved Brian Smith. Now all I could feel was resentment, hatred, and disgust. I stayed away from home and kept an eye on them virtually. After an hour or so, I saw them leave the house in a way that made me think they were going to make unwanted physical contact. Together, they packed heavy baggage into Brian's vehicle and took off. When I saw this, I thought they were taking a trip together, a week off work for their adulterous vacation. What a laid-back pair of jellyfish. I didn't go inside until I was positive my husband had left the house entirely. I decided to pack up everything I needed and treasures and move out of the house permanently, with no intention of living there ever again. I took a final stroll around the house after packing everything, which felt like a proper farewell to the actual building. That house had been my favorite. It had been the ideal location for both of us to relax calmly following demanding work days. Especially the backyard was breathtakingly lovely. Using the majority of our resources, purchasing this house had been the first significant step toward the life Brian and I had planned. Even though it wasn't brand new, I thought it was the ideal house because I would be living there with the person I loved. But now, since I was living there with a traitor, I was so uneasy. Even though my first instinct was to get out of that place as soon as possible, I managed to stay for a little while longer because of my enduring fondness for it. I was going through the rooms when I saw all of Daisy's stuff. On the nightstand in Brian's bedroom, different lotions, shampoos, conditioners, and makeup things didn't belong to me. Her wardrobe was full of everything from sweaters and trousers to gowns and provokingly tiny shirts. The room smelled fruity, and I discovered later that it was because Brian's old bed sheets, which were missing, had been replaced with new ones that had an orange scent. Observing all of this made me feel deeply embarrassed as well as angry. I wondered what we had been exactly building up to for the entire time we had been together, and what the point of all this time had been. My first visit after leaving the house was to a reputable attorney who assisted me in getting ready for the divorce process. I went to a detective service after that to get proof of the affair. I was hesitant to take pictures of the evidence when I went back to the house the second time. I wanted to avoid having those moments permanently imprinted in my brain. Therefore, I decided against taking pictures of them with my phone. I also couldn't stay at the hotel forever, so I rented an apartment with a flexible monthly fee. All of the stuff I had packed to go with me found a temporary home here. I was determined to get a divorce by now, and nothing could change my mind. Brian Smith was dead to me, and I no longer felt any affection for him. Still, there was a persistent nagging idea that getting a divorce wouldn't be enough. I felt obliged to give him 10 times over for all the suffering he had brought upon me. If not, I wouldn't feel content in my gut, and I wouldn't be able to forgive myself for giving in. I was going about my everyday business when I heard from the detective agency. It seemed as though the timing of the call couldn't have been better when it did arrive. It was good news because they indicated they had enough proof. I told them to hold on to the proof until I got back to my husband's place. He knew he was back from his adulterous journey when he noticed a car parked outside. I went to a cake shop and got a cake after making sure he was inside, and then I went back to the house. I checked to make sure he wasn't in the living room before softly opening the door. I walked over to his bedroom door and heard my husband talking to the woman he was seeing, Daisy. I lifted the cake box and silently opened it, leaving the dessert in the hallway before storming inside the room. "Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you!" I cried out, shocking the two of them. Their looks of disbelief were amusing, and I forced myself not to chuckle. I had to ignore their ridiculous reactions and carry out my strategy with a straight face. "Happy birthday, dear traitor! Happy birthday to you!" I sang as I went on. I threw the entire cake at my husband with all the power and accuracy I could muster after the song ended. A pleasing amount of the dessert sprayed on his nude upper torso, with some of the cream even falling on the woman seated next to him. "Lisa, what the hell are you doing?" With disbelief, Brian exclaimed, "Why am I even doing this? Hey, check out who's speaking. And really, what are you thinking you're doing?" I snapped back. "Well, let me clarify. Whoa, I had no idea you had already returned home. How on earth didn't you give me a call?" Brian faltered. "Why didn't I give you a call? I'm going to let you in on the reality about this, friend. Since your birthday, I have been here. I hope that clarifies things for you," I added, angrily infusing my voice. "Oh my God, there's no way." While his partner remained mute and gaped in shock, Brian's jaw twitched anxiously. "Mr. Smith, I believe you just took my entire line. I'm not going to view any of this at this time. Could you please clarify what's happening in this situation?" I looked at them both and demanded, "Well, this is... How much do you know about us?" Brian searched for a way to explain. Maybe my unexpected arrival had left them stunned. They refused to respond to any of my questions and were clearly irritated. "After all, this lady is the only one you love, right? I'm just a money grubber. I have the perfect solution for that, though. You will immediately repay me for every penny you took from me. I'm going to ask you for alimony, and you have to give me back every single cent." My husband gave a start as soon as I said the word alimony. The woman he was seeing was obviously shaken when I turned to look at her. "Well, don't just remain motionless. Lower yourself to your knees on the ground. That way, I'm sure you'll feel a lot better." They both bolted off the bed, knelt down in front of me, and lowered their heads on the ground at my command. "I apologize. I was enjoying myself with her while you were off at work. I felt alone and missed you. It's true that I have a husband, but I wanted someone who valued me more than he did." "Lisa, we were actually talking about finishing things when you entered. We both felt that it was not suitable in the first place. I apologize for not hearing you clearly," I said without looking at their faces. "We were parting ways. Lisa, we are both backstabbing traitors, cheats, and liars. Which one, can you guess, fits? I heard you both talking about ending things and taking a 2-week trip to Japan. I can't believe it. How can people drop so low?" Hearing what I said made my husband and his side chick turn pale. "I overheard you guys discussing me at this bastard's birthday that evening. You honestly think I'm going to swallow whatever horseshit excuse or bird brains come up with now that I know this much about your opinions of my friggin' existence? I'm sorry. I admit that I cheated on you, and I deeply apologize. I hope you can forgive me. Just because you act all responsible and innocent right now doesn't mean you're any closer to being forgiven. Really, I apologize. Yes, I do think that what I did was improper. Get a divorce from me right now. Lisa, stop from saying such things. Really, it was only done for enjoyment. Ma'am, I plead with you. Please don't divorce Brian on his behalf. The name's Daisy, right? I apologize, but who are you to speak for Brian Smith? Would you be so bold as to overlook the fact that you are also entitled to alimony from me? However, all I was doing was having an affair. It isn't as though Brian and I were married. It was simply fun and games, so I don't think the law allows you to demand alimony from me. I find this to be ridiculous. Could you please tell me your precise IQ? I must know. Of course, I have the right to ask for alimony from you. Even though you were aware that the man you were seeing was already married, you continued the affair in the hopes of making a good impression. Breaking news, lady. Being unfaithful never ends well. The fact that this woman basically said that the sun was the biggest pizza in the entire state of Mexico amazes me. It was unbelievable to me that I had lost my real husband to a woman who lacked common sense. Divorce is what I desire. You can speak with my lawyer to learn more about the demands, as I already made one. I visited the detective agency as well, and they have a ton of solid evidence of your foolish affair. Don't bother if you're considering making up an excuse to get out of this. For starters, that makes no sense, since you would be burying yourself. You're not serious at all. Divorce is not something that I wish for. You even said that you were disgusted by me and that you wanted to leave this area, saying that you didn't want to be near me. With the romance ruined, I'm not sure how you want us to live as a married couple. You really depend on me to survive, since I am, of all, the money grubber, right? That's not it at all. Oh, sweetheart, that's unfortunate since I did manage to get you the high-end wallet you've been eyeing for a while. I was going to give it to you. I had it ready for you. It's in the trash now. No, there's no way you... Perhaps you should have remained loyal to yourself. I'm going to miss you. That was all I had to say, and I left them there in the house by themselves, filled with sorrow and guilt. Mr. Smith then attempted to call me a few times, but I turned them all down. My lawyer said, as I entrusted my lawyer with everything. Later on, Mr. Smith lost his job, most likely as a result of the formal letter I brought from the detective firm to his employer, which included proof of his adultery with the woman he was seeing. It's not unusual to hear stories these days about people cheating on their spouses, and it's well recognized that this kind of behavior can seriously harm a person's reputation on the job and in general. The fact that Mr. Smith and Miss McIntyre did not anticipate the consequences confuses me. Mr. Smith probably hadn't saved much because he was depending on me for living expenses. He begged my attorney to set up alimony in monthly installments after I was dismissed, and I agreed to that as long as he paid me in full. Miss McIntyre, on the other hand, was left without a job and no way to make money. After learning of the affair, Mr. McIntyre is now requesting alimony. She tried to ask Mr. Smith for assistance, but he was only employed part-time and sadly had no savings. She thought about replacing him with a purportedly affluent man because she didn't feel like she could rely on him. But this man was tough and unemployed, even if he had debts from gambling and marijuana. Ironically, it's kind of comforting to see that Mr. Smith and Miss McIntyre aren't thrilled that their affair was revealed. I've come to realize that I shouldn't enjoy the bad luck of others. After a long business trip and a big promotion, I was thrilled to be the first woman in the company's history to reach that level at the age of 32. Junior staff members' enthusiasm for this honor has encouraged me to put more time and effort into my work. Since I actually enjoy what I do, I've established new objectives for myself, including leading by example for my team, helping the business succeed, and getting ready to move up the professional ladder.